Well, look, I was very impressed with Senator Orrin Hatch yesterday. Obviously, things got heated in the Senate. We've got that exchange that we're going to run in a second. But we knew going into any tax plan that the left was going to have their talking points ready, that this was a whole cut for the rich. But Hatch really pushed back on that. Listen to this. I want to get your reaction to Senator Orrin Hatch and Senator Sherrod Brown.
I really resent anybody saying that I'm just doing this for the rich. Give me a break. I think you guys overplay that all the time, and it gets old. And frankly, you ought to quit it.
Mr. Chairman, the public believes
it. I'm not through.
Okay.
I get kind of sick and tired of it. True, it's a nice political play.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
it's not true.
With all due respect, I get sick and tired of the richest people
Regular
in the
order,
country
Mr. Chairman.
getting richer and
Regular order.
richer. We do a tax
Regular order.
Middle class.
And what you said was not right. That's all I'm saying. I come from the lower middle class originally. We didn't have anything. So don't spew that stuff on me.
And yet, Kevin, I mean, you know, when the talking points come out, you need to be there to react and explain to people that it's actually not the case.
Right.
Is the GOP doing enough to explain what this plan is?
Well, I think that given the amount of momentum that the bill clearly has, it still looks like it's got enough support in the Senate to become law, then I think that they are doing enough. And I think that in the end, as you know, Maria, what's going to happen is that 6 months from now, you know, I'll hopefully come back on the show and we'll be looking at the wage data. And you'll be saying, Kevin, you know, blue-collar workers are seeing a big pay increase, just like you said. Or you'll be saying, geez, Kevin, you guys said this was going to be great for workers, and it doesn't seem to be showing up yet. What's wrong? You know, that's, in the end, what's going to matter to voters.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at the academic data, there's a lot of reason to believe that there are going to be very big growth effects, wage effects, and that's why we think that the typical worker will get a $4,000 pay increase. But in the end, I think voters watch that kind of stuff, and they say, oh, geez, I hope they work it out. And in the end, they care about their own lives. And I really believe, after studying this for decades, that this tax bill is designed in a way that will really move the economy forward and be great for America's workers. And I think that that's why Senator Hatch, I think, was so emotional, because he believes that too. And he doesn't believe that out of ideology. He believes it because he studied the issue with his staff and with us. And if you look at the evidence of all the countries around the world that have done things like this, they've tended to have big wage increases, big growth increases. You know, it's so obvious in the data that the OECD, the Organization of Developed Countries, I was in Paris for a meeting last week, and they were basically saying, well, thank God the U.S. is finally adopting international norms of the corporate tax space. And so, you know, if the intellectual elite even know that we're doing the right thing, then you wonder why the Democrats are still fighting it.
Well, it's a political ideology, and it's just politics. But so you believe that the direct impact of this plan will be higher wages then and economic growth. Let me ask you then, do you feel worried that the Senate in its plan has an idea to delay the corporate rate going to 20% by 1 year?
The president, President Trump has made it absolutely clear that he wants the rate cut right away. And if you look at what the Senate guys are doing, is that they've got these rules where they need to have it fit, in all these different slots in order to pass the bill. They might have to delay it a year. If you look at the economics of it, it's if you delay it a year, you do create two effects, one negative and one positive. The negative effect is that, of course, you got to wait a year to get the tax cut. The positive effect is that you give people an incentive to buy more capital equipment next year because they get to deduct it at a higher rate, right? And so you get a 35% benefit for expensing a machine as opposed to a 20% benefit for expensing a machine. And those two effects, move in opposite directions. And so it's not as big a negative as you might think when we run it through the economic models. And so I can see why the Senate is looking for ways to get this thing to fit through all the holes it's got to fit through to become law.
And that apparently saves $100 billion, delaying it by 1 year.
And that's the kind of thing that they're playing. But the president significantly prefers having it start in the first year, and he said that over and over.
Kevin, are the individual cuts going to be permanent?
I think that the intent is that they'll be permanent, and because of the budget rules, there might be some things, and there hopefully as little as possible, that in the end has to expire, because if it affects the budget outside of the budget window, then you have to repeal it because of the Byrd rule. But they're trying to get as little of that to happen as possible. But my guess is that there is going to be some stuff like the expensing, for example, will probably expire after 5 years and then have to be extended in the 6th year. But the history of these pro-growth things is that they do get extended over and over over and over again. And certainly the intent is to make it permanent. On the expensing, to give you an example, Maria, that in the first year, if you expense something that you're going to write off over 7 years, then it doesn't cost anything in the budget calculus because you're not taking any tax break from outside the 10-year window and putting it inside, because the whole 7 years starts from the beginning. But if you start in, say, the 9th year, then you give expensing, then there's 6 years of stuff from outside the window that you move in the window, and the Joint Tax Committee will say that costs a lot of money. And so they stop it in the 5th year because that effect of pulling stuff into the window is minimized right about in the 5th year. But in the 6th year, they could add a year basically for free, because there's no machine that's going to be written off, or almost no machine, outside of 10 years. And so if it ends in 5 years, then 100% Democrats or Republicans they're going to want to extend that thing and not harm the economy. And when they go to do that, it's going to cost almost nothing because they're just adding 1 year.
Right. All right, Kevin Hassett, good to see you, sir. Thanks very much.
Great to be here, Maria.
We'll
Thanks.
be watching the developments.